with Seer and herself. So Seer, it's like multi-dimensional seeing. I did some with a really excellent guide teacher. His name's Chris with a K, Christian. He's French, and he did such a beautiful, just such a beautiful guided journey with breath work. It was so powerful, and he does it the traditional way with the mouth breathing open and breathing in and out through the mouth. And and it really showed like how powerful the breath is. And then with seer work, this isn't religious work, it's energy work. It's not, I don't even call it spiritual work. I actually don't like that word because it's like been so convoluted on 3D Earth. I prefer energy work, and it's actually like on my business cards. So, um, but what I saw, oops, sorry, I'm just going to turn I got confirmation that the sound works, and then I always have my phone on before getting the confirmation, but that was pretty loud. Sorry about that. So, and I claim my phone in source's name, my Apple phone in source's name, claim technology in source's name. And the thing is with all of the action that's happening, it's like everything has slowed down um around me, but also it's more alive. And I know I keep saying it, but they're doing some drilling on the balcony. I don't know. They show up on Tuesday at 11:11. The construction guys, they're nice guys, but anyways, so they're here. So the first thing I saw with doing the breath work, it was like, so actually experiencing, source mirroring source. And then when I was doing the deep breathing, what I heard was, God is the breath of life. Like God is the breath. God is in the body and God is the breath. And then source is the all, like the eternal all. And it was like a way of experiencing that aliveness inside the body. And then listening to the music at the same time, um it was so powerful. Like he was just such a good guide. He's just come back and moved here after traveling for a few years. And I mean, it was I will go again. He was amazing. So, and I saw how incredible it can be. And even for me, breath work in the 90s. So when I started energy work, it was 1990 with Reiki. And I didn't even know what energy work was. It was all based on intuition and gut instinct. And we would do these small groups of breath work, but we called it inner child work because really you're releasing your nervous system, you're releasing the limbic system, and you're going into the back part of the brain, which is um, the old, the ancient. So connecting and clearing. And it was really wild to see, I got kind of shown, there was so Chris was guiding, Chris with a K, he was guiding Christian, and then there was one, two, three, four of us. So he was guiding the four of us. And at the end, so I did all the clearing, and then at the very end, I got to see what everybody's higher self looks like. And it was amazing. And that was just from breathing. It was incredible. But what I saw was like, I had like eyes everywhere. Like there was just all these eyes, it was just like multidimensional eyes is what it looked like. So that's kind of what it looked like. It was interesting to see because um I kind of felt that that was true, like as a seer, that like as a multidimensional seer, that's kind of been my I guess, expression. I would call it that. That's what I kind of saw. Like from source, there's an emanation. And then as emanated beings from source, like source aligned, source sparked, we have an expression that comes from source, like a like I guess like you could call it like a style. Like we have like a style that, that we like. Um, or that feels kind of like effortless, or it just feels like home. I don't know. It feels like it's an expression and a style. And then even like ascended masters, I saw that they have like a style. Like there's like I learned recently, like the monad, so monad spark from source, and then under like one monad, just releasing whoever is needing the release, just released. Like Buddha, Krishna, Yeshua, Jesus in the crucifixion expression, um, timeline, are all part of the same monad, but different expressions, like different styles. Like Krishna has a certain style. Yeshua has a certain style. Like he's like, to me, he's a multidimensional healer. And then Buddha has a style. And then what I saw with Chris is that he had the expression and alignment of of Buddha. So the same style. And he just spent a lot of time, meditating and learning different um well, he's not learning it, he's remembering it in this life, and it's awakening in the meditation, the breath work. Um, he's remembering what his natural style is in this life. And that's what it looked like. And so we all had, um, so we kind of spoke, what did we see after we finished the breath work? And what, um, because Chris was the only one with his eyes open. I don't know if I should call him Christian or Chris, but anyways, I learned his name first as Chris, but then he said he's French and his name is actually Christian. So he said that what I described in seeing everybody, they were actually physically doing it with their hands, but I couldn't see because my hands were to myself. My hands were to myself, and also my eyes were closed, so I couldn't see what everybody else was doing. But he actually said that what I was describing is actually what everybody else, what they were actually doing, and I could see, their higher selves and see 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 who they are in their natural expression. And it was really beautiful. Um, I'll just look at the chat quickly. Hi, Helen. Welcome. I'm going to send you some hearts. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And that's what we're starting to see. And that's what, everybody, the four of us, when we finished the breath work, with Chris as our guide, we were all like so grateful. Like, what an amazing thing to do on a Monday, on a Monday night. And we all came together, and it was so powerful. Like it truly is the breath of life. And then going into that deep, it's like the theta brain in the body. So and then I got to experience doing the decree like in a group, like in person, like a small group. So three, with three others. And, at first when we started and I got there, they were like, no, I don't think we're going to do it, And then we just kind of like, I just opened and then just let it go. And then we went and I said, let's just do one kind of thing at a time and then, see how we go. But it was very powerful. And everybody, at the end of the journey, at the end of the day, really, we all had so many transformations and clearings. Like it really was clearing out, the muck, clearing out what is not for our highest and greatest good. And, one of the guys, he said, well, why don't we put like when we in the decree, we there's a part where we go, I revoke. So it's like, what do I revoke? Out of my cellular structure, out of my body, out of my life, out of my system, out of my vibration. So what do I revoke? And then we also in the decree claim, I reclaim my energy. I reclaim my like original design, my original blueprint. I reclaim my innocence. And he was really smart. He was just like, well, I revoke the dark triad, psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, because empath light workers, they get completely decimated, you know, and of course, they don't look like the dark triad when they come in. They come in with lots of love bombing and charisma, and it's not just the men, it's also the women. Like the women get clobbered, but the men get clobbered, and especially like light worker men because their energy and they're so giving and they have like this gigantic heart and it's amazing. So usually it was always, say you'd have one light worker, one empath, and then, the rest around you, there's like usually four or five of the dark triad. So, but in this group, it was like only light workers, only heart-based being, only source emanated beings. And we were together in a small group for a day. We walked in the forest. We went in the ocean. We took breaks. We ate really good food, like really good vegan food. And, one of the guys is like, a super foodie. And he knows exactly what to eat and drink. So I'm just like, I'm gonna eat and drink whatever he eats and drinks because he's so good with they all are. So it was like being around a whole bunch of people that are like that feel good. And then we spent the day together, but it was like we were all helping each other. And I don't know, it was incredible. It was the first time I tried the decree in a group because in a small group because I wanted to see how it felt. And then how do we all kind of respond um, with it? And it was really powerful. It was really amazing. And it was amazing to witness each other's decree, and one person, he's fluent in another language and he's only been in, I think, Canada a couple years, but his English is excellent. I mean, I learned French for a decade and my French is not good, not very good. And so his English is really good. But, the decree has, really specific words that you normally don't use, like sovereignty or, different words. And so I was just like, okay, well, read it once and then see how you feel. And but then he really liked how it felt in his body reading it. And then he read it again and again, and we really helped kind of like the group helped kind of everybody kind of go deeper. So, because we want to nail like we want to hit the nail on the head. Like we want to hit the pain spot, the part that's taking you down, most of your life. Because usually the dark triad uses your compassion against you, your giving multiple chances against you, your forgiveness against you, like that you have to constantly forgive them and that you constantly have to give them chances and you have to constantly understand, that, maybe, they came from a trauma background that, well, there's lots of people that come from a trauma background and they don't go around decimating other people. They don't go around manipulating, lying, cheating, and stealing, just because you were harm doesn't, it's coming from somewhere else. But as empaths, we were always like, oh, that always, stopped us in our tracks. It's like, oh, they were harmed, when they were little, and that's why, they're, psychopaths. It's like, no, they're psychopaths because they need energy and they need power. So, and they have removed themselves. So either they've removed themselves from source, so like, or they're the dark triad, which they're made. They're not from source, right? They don't have a source spark. And that has been the big lie in 3D Earth. And that is what has decimated empaths, light workers for the last 2,000 years. So it's not nothing, it's a big something. And it was great because he actually said, no, I'm going to name them in my decree. So he said, he wrote it, and I made a note of it, and I will add it because in each decree there's always refinements. And he said, I revoke the dark triad. I revoke the archons. I revoke the Anunnaki. And he put it in his decree. And it was really interesting, burning the decrees because it was like in a house. So we just went outside and did it and did the burning. But, the wind would pick up, again, my lighter stopped working. And then one of the guys had one of those super lighters, and so his lighter worked. So I got to get one of those super lighters. I don't know, somehow it has like a bigger flame that comes out. Um, and and then we didn't have any tongs because I forgot to bring them, and I forgot to bring my pot, but luckily, they had a pot, but they didn't have the tongs. And so one person said, well, why don't we put the paper like this and then have a fork and then just put it, light it kind of like this. And then we lit it like that. And then of course the fork is metal. So it worked, so we even improvised. So it's like you could go camping and, do it safely. Obviously, you don't want to create a forest fire or a beach fire, but, we improvised, but it actually worked better. And then as a group, because we were in a collective alignment, there were more refinements that came in. So I actually think I didn't, I'm just doing some releasing. So whoever needs some releasing, just say yes. Just sending some hearts, just looking at the chat. So Sunita's here. She says, hi, everyone, and pink hand waving. Beautiful. Thank you. And that's the thing that I'm seeing that's switching in 2026 is that the light workers are coming together and the empaths are coming together, and we're creating communities, which is exactly what 5D is. 5D is not a planet, it's not another place, it is a frequency, and it's here on Earth. And there's no hierarchy. There's no reptilians. There's no archons. There's no dark triad because they cannot go past fear, shame, guilt, anger. Like they need the low vibrations, terror, like total absolute fear, paralyzing fear. That is the vibration that they live on, or the frequency they need a lot of other people's, they call it loosh, Loosh. They need a lot of people's fear in order to gain the energy to get up in a day. And so lots of people are recalling their energy, they're clearing their records. And so they're losing a lot of access. And in the decree, you are kicking them out, and they're not able to lose your energy, and you're updating your records, and it's happening. So of all the energy work that I've done, I have found that it is the most powerful. But I saw in the breath work that I did yesterday, I saw, the origination of where I learned the decree or did the decree was in as a priestess in the Egyptian timeline. And that was like my main job. So the judge, there's like a judge, and then there's the law, and then priestess Matt is like the law. So the scale, so when the heart is on one side and the feather is on the other side, and then but we all, in order to clear our frequency, we all, get our hearts get tested basically. But the test is in service to source. So I got to see that. It was interesting to see it in a way and really embody it. But I also learned that in this life, my name is Elaine. Like, because our names carry a frequency, and our names, like my dad said when I was born um in European tradition, you take on the grandparent's name or the parent's name. And my dad said he knew for sure my name was Elaine. in this life, he was like, well, he didn't, I don't think we never talked about past lives. And I've never really talked about past lives or other time spaces until the last few years. Before, I was always very much now, 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 now. But there obviously our frequency and expression has been multidimensional, but it all is in the present, is how I see it. So, um, okay, so let's take a look at the chat. And, thank you for being here. Welcome. Okay, Sunija says, where would you flush the ashes on a campsite? Yeah, exactly. I was wondering that because actually flushing the ashes down the toilet, there was a couple, and with a couple people, there was like a little ash that remained. And then, but we washed the pot and then put that, when we washed it, filled it with water, we put that also in the toilet. So the toilet got flushed a couple of times, but it needed to get flushed a couple of times. So I was wondering where would we put it? But I think if you are close to a river or an ocean, like the ocean is such a transformer, like I've heard it a lot where it's like, we think everything is up, out, but what if it's down, in? What if it's through the ocean and down in? We're always thinking like source is up and out, but what if it's down in through our bodies and then down in through the ocean and then down the opposite, because everything on 3D Earth is inverted. So everything is the opposite. So I was thinking, actually I could like do research, if the government said do this, and then I did my research and did the opposite, I think I would probably find out that it's the opposite. The opposite is true because we're finding out so many things where the opposite is true. So, but 3D is inverted. So then, we're thinking it's up, out, but what if it's down, in? And also the whales are the record keepers. Like they keep the records of Earth, so in the ocean. And so maybe if you are camping close to the ocean, you could put, because the ocean is, and if the ocean is, has the salt water, so then you kind of, maybe that would be it. Maybe that would work. But the big thing is just, it feels like nobody wants to shrink anymore. Nobody wants to like no one cares if you call them a weirdo because you're clearing your records and you're doing energy work. Like everybody's like tired of suffering and they know that they're not going to, the government's not going to help them. The medical system, like everybody's kind of like knows they have to advocate for themselves. Like even if you don't believe in energy work, you know that there's like an awakening of consciousness and an awakening to your own energy and your own frequency, and people want to know who they really are, like who they are, like inside at their heart. Okay, that felt like a lot. Oh my goodness. I'm just watching the trees outside and the wind blowing in the trees, and it's like so relaxing. It's so beautiful. Okay, so let's get back in here. We'll get into the present moment, connecting to our hearts, connecting to the deep I, the higher self, source consciousness through the heart, and then going into the inner body, feeling our inner body, our source aligned energy, connecting to source consciousness, and then bringing in the golden light from source. Totally present, embodied. That's real energy work. And that I learned is real breath work. The breath of life. And then just feeling how the body feels, to be inside, present, connecting to our hearts, connecting to source. And then just releasing anything just off the top that just needs to be released. We're asking for the deepest healing and the deepest clearing in this seer session. We're asking for only source healing and source wisdom, and only guides that are aligned with source, and angels and archangels only aligned with source. And we're born to walk in full emotional truth, where our emotions match our frequency and our bodies, the nervous system, the limbic system. And so we can feel safe in our bodies, and we're vibrating, like our field is like, what I saw is like a multi-band. It's like multi-frequency, but it's harmonious. And then almost like like a prison, where you look at the, like, not a prison like where you go to jail, but a prism, like PRISM, I think it's called. It's written, it's spelled, where all it refracts all different kinds of light at the same time. That's kind of, to me, that's what everybody looked like. So yeah, and it was interesting, like doing the group in person. Um, One person also said that they revoke and sever cords to people known and unknown, because sometimes we don't even really know who's in our field, but we just feel like something is agitating our field. And I thought that was such a neutral way of kind of covering, um, I don't know, the expression is like covering all bases, right? So people known or unknown. So I add those into the next decree. And the big thing is reclaiming like our body, our dignity. So much has happened to us in this life that we, you know, to our dignity, to our bodies. And, when you're doing energy work, it's like there's only reverence for your body as it is, not when you lose weight, or not when you become prettier, or not when you get plastic surgery, but as you are now. Because no one cares, everybody can feel what the vibration and frequency is about of the other person, and they can feel their heart, so it was only an experience of the expansion of love, but not like the personal love, but the eternal love, where you're so grateful that the group is together, and you're so grateful that we have this opportunity to experience this together, on a Monday night. Oh, so much happens. Beautiful. Okay, but that's kind of like 5D, where things flow and things come together very easily, and things don't need to be forced, but we're vibrating at a multi-band frequency, but it's harmony. Like it is the essence of harmony. So we have like our somatic, like it's like I'm in another planet today. It's like we have like our somatic frequency. Our body has a frequency, and our consciousness has a frequency. And then once it all aligns together and you're in that flow state, but you're in the flow state, not in hypnosis, or not altered in any way, but like eyes awake, body awake, eyes awake. It's just you. It's amazing. All right. So I'm going to send lots of love. I don't know. I just feel like I'm full of love. I feel like I feel tired because it was not tired, but it was so big, but it was so regular. It felt like it was the regular, but I knew what was happening wasn't the regular. It actually was um an awakening experience doing the breath work last night. So I'm going to send more hearts. Okay, so let's take a look at the chat. Okay, so we've been here for a while, been chatting, so thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. It's quite hot in Vancouver, so my lips have been getting chapped. All right, let's take a look. Oh, let's have something to drink. Actually, I'm having some coconut water. There we go. Okay, good reminder to stay hydrated. Okay, so yeah, with the ashes, if there was a river, or if there's a lake, or if there is a ocean, and let the ocean and the rivers and the lakes help you transmute and release that energy. Okay, so Sinija, she, her, 1973. I've been using salt on my window, sliding door, and main entrance. I feel much better. Thank you for suggesting it. That is amazing, Sinija. Thank you for saying that, because that is the whole point with, taking care of your space in that way so that you don't have to work so hard. So when you come home, you can relax, you can let go, you know? Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. And I feel it too. Like I'm sleeping so well, like I barely move. I've been sleeping, except when I get awoken at, I, I got awoken at like 4 a.m. on Sunday morning to do some light work, the technology decree. But I did it. I woke up and I was like, oh, again, it's like I look at the time, it was 4:08 a.m. and I thought, oh no, it'll be dark out. And I look outside and it's bright. And I was like, what is going on? And so I did it. I woke up and I did it. But that's great, Sunija. Thank you for saying that. It has made a difference and that you feel much better. That is amazing. Thank you. And then Sunija says, I cleaned my home a couple of days ago and removed the salt from those portals, but still kept it in the corners. Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah. And I think you can refresh the salt, like vacuum up the salt, refresh the salt, every week or then once a month, depending on how the frequency feels. Like if you're spritzing, the corners with peppermint oil or with rosemary, um, essential oil, just the scent. So I feel like somebody's heart is hurting that is watching in the YouTube live. So it's just showing up here on the left side of the body, which is the divine masculine. And so, but it's the heart. So that's what I'm hearing. It's the heart. So I'm just going to help whoever's heart is hurting. There's somebody that their heart is hurting. I was asking, is it a physical? Because one time when this happened, it was actually somebody that had like a blood clot, but always get, medical advice. I'm not a doctor and this is energy work, right? Okay. We're all adults here. We understand, this is energetic support. It does help, but we also need to, get tested and all of that. But this feels emotional. So this is somebody's heart and feels emotional. So we're just going to give some support. Okay, let's take a look at it. We can do it at the same time. So it's like the hand, and it was interesting too, because Christian also said, with breath work, the hand, like from Chinese medicine, it has all the organs, it has everything, and then same with the feet. And then he said the same, that with breath work, for him, that the hands kind of do everything. So, and I use the hands all the time, but that happened just through doing seer sessions, just doing some more releasing. Whoever is needing it, it's happening. But, it's always free will to receive it. Okay. And then Sunija says, since removing the salt from the portals, I've started to feel a bit worse again. Wow, so your energy is so sensitive, right? So refined. So you could see that it made a difference, and then you removed it, and then you started feeling worse again. Wow, that's amazing, Sunija. Yeah, I feel so much better with the salt and spritzing. It's made a massive difference. And then having, the rue, like, and also fresh flowers. And that came up in the breath work, because the Chris that was leading the breath work, what came through was that what would be really good for him is to have fresh flowers in his home. And he said exactly what I thought and what I've always struggled with. And I think with many light workers, what they struggle with is they don't want to buy flowers because they die. And then if we buy flowers, then we're encouraging them to, grow flowers and then cut them. And so what I learned from Eckhart in 1997 as my teacher, my one-on-one teacher, is he said flowers were the kind of the first creation on earth that were created for pure beauty and consciousness. And so if you had anything in your house, just have flowers. Like any furniture, he said, anything, if you had one thing in your house, it would be flowers, because flowers release, when they die, they will release their consciousness in your space. And every time I bring flowers into my space, yes, I do also have the plants that I love, but it always feels like the room lights up. So, and I knew he was going to say no, but what I said to him is, I am sending you an e-transfer, one, because my higher self told me to when we were doing the breath work. And I said, but really, if I could have gone out and bought him a bouquet of flowers, I would have. But it was really late at night, and I wouldn't have found a store that was open. But I said, I would really love it. I'm going to send you it, but I would really love it if you got flowers. And then we all got reminded as a group, like, and just like the scent, and I said like lilacs, like the scent of lilacs or the scent of lilies. And then he was like, oh, I love lilacs. And it's like, yeah, but he lives in a condo, so it's like, we're not all landowners, some of us live in small spaces. And so how do you bring the consciousness of the earth? We can't bring a tree into our condo. We can bring in some plants, but also the flowers have a frequency, they have a vibration, and then they bring that frequency and that vibration into the home. Like these orange flowers, they're yellow orange flowers, and those red berries, they're like, I think 3 weeks now. I'm like, I was gonna get more flowers, but I just wait until they go, until they're done. I just keep them until they completely, like, evaporate. Okay, let's take a look at the chat again. Thank you. Okay, Sunija's saying, instead of salt, I used essential oils, spritz, and seal the space. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yep, you can do that. The salt kind of like holds the frequency, because salt from 2000 years has been used as a cleanser, like to clear and to also seal. So we're like cleaning, clearing, but we're sealing the corners for, no portal jumpers, basically, like no interference, no low frequency vibrations, because they'll, kind of they'll go to the weakest link, um, which is usually the corners, because we don't, we'll clean, but, we have to move all the furniture to clean the corners. I don't know. Yeah, thanks, Sunija. And Helen says, thank you for sharing. And yeah, thank you for being here. I'm going to send some hearts to everybody. Okay. What's the difference between heart-based and only one with source? Yeah, they're the same. The same. So a heart-based, like if you're a heart-based being and you're only one with source, it's the same. So we come from source as a spark of source, and but through our hearts. So you can't be from source and not be heart-based. You're only heart-based. Like source is unconditional love. Yeah. And then when we get to actually feel it and experience it in our 3D bodies on Earth, in whatever frequency we've landed. Sorry if I bumped my microphone. But sometimes it falls. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're saying, yeah, it's the same because you are only in your heart frequency from source. So yeah, good question. Thanks, Helen. I'm gonna send some more hearts. Okay. Um, yeah, and you can ask, whatever questions. It's great. These are great questions, and then great updates from Sinija, like amazing, because we are learning from each other and refining the decree so that we really, that we don't have to work so hard, but mostly that our energy doesn't get drained. Like I have one friend and she's a counselor. I have a couple friends, that are counselors, and they're so drained. And she kind of told me what happened to her in one day of her work. It was horrific. It was horrific what she went through. You know, like, yeah. So we have to really think about, she's incarnated 7D. And I have clients that are 7D because they're hearing things as they are. They feel everything as it is. So I incarnated in 3D, in a 3D body, and then like the old school way, I awakened through density, right? But they're coming in 7D frequency in a 3D body, and it's so shocking for the nervous system because it's horrific. And for me, I think my clairvoyance is seeing, like clairaudience is hearing. Um, and that my hearing, like it was kind of like a protection, but it came on kind of what I think is my last clair. And I heard like buzzing in my ears. And then when my ears completely cleared, like in terms of like frequency, like source frequency, it was horrific. It sounded like the construction outside sounded like roofing, like, when they have metal and water and they're like scraping through. And I could hear like the screeching. I could hear the screaming of the children. I could hear like what 5G and 6G sounds like. Like it's like horrific. I was like totally like this. When I came home, I was just like, oh my God, like close all the windows, close all the doors. Like I was just like shaking. It was like, because I knew that it was activating, but then I actually thought, okay, well, I'm going to go outside and see how it feels. And it was like horrific. But now it's not like that. Now I acclimatized, and also too, I've stabilized my frequency more and also with my body. So that was a few months ago, but it was shocking. And this is what many of the 18-year-olds and younger, this is what they're hearing, and this is what they're seeing, and this is what they're tasting. Like they taste everything. They can taste how if something has too much salt or too much, like onions and garlic. You know, I have one, they're not friends, but like acquaintances, and their daughter like will not eat the amount of like onions and garlic that they put in the food. And they're like, well, this is the food that we make and you have to eat it. And it's like horrific for these 7Ds because they can taste, their taste buds are like pure consciousness. They can taste. They're going to be the best chefs ever. They're going to be these vegan, amazing chefs because they taste all the refinements. So, and I'm learning what that is to be in the frequency of incarnated 7D. So I'm like, your lowest, and this is what I said to my friend, like your lowest is absolutely has to be 5D and stop going into the 3D. Like I have to start changing her work, because she was like, is it me? And it's like, it's your work. Yeah, like we have to change it. It has to be something more aligned, so that you are not crashing every day when you do your job. You should not be crashing because of your 3D job and then take days to recover. You're not helping anybody by being in horrific environments that just break your heart and then bring you to low 3D because your heart is broken because there's no help. The best way to help people is with your frequency. So I told her how if you stabilize, here you are in 7D, but if you stabilize your body and your frequency at 5D, you're helping 750,000 people in the low 3D. And that's what we can do now. We can stabilize in frequency, and then things start collapsing. The more of us are in that, able to embody and stabilize that frequency. All right, let's take a look at the chat again. Um, okay, so Sinija says, let's take a look. Where am I here? Okay, so yeah, we answered the question. Oh, that was Sinija that asked. Yeah, what is the difference between heart-based versus only source? And it's like it's the same. So heart-based beings are only source aligned, meaning they're not the dark triad and they're not NPCs, not non-player characters. They're actually from source and emanation from source. And then Sinija says, could you please ask the higher self again about the tapestry? On the June 9th, they said it was a trap for souls, but your last video, they said it was called the Book of Tapestry that Anubis and Amput take care of. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of my past lives. But it's not a past life, it's the time space. And that's why I'm so confident with doing the records and updating the records, because it's actually, as a seer, is one of like my main jobs. So it's and because 3D is inverted, they will use the kind of the name, right? Because they're like pirates, they kind of use the name, but it's not quite the name, right? So I asked, and the name that came forward, actually, it was with a client, and she is incarnated 7D. And so I asked her, because we were doing the decree, and I asked her as well, because she doesn't want to do this work. She's like actually in finance, so she's like amazing. But we checked in it and we found out that Anubis is in charge of it, and he is in charge of the tapestry, but it's called the Book of Tapestry. And Anubis's divine counterpart is Amput, and they did the records together. And then the law that is enacted is Mat, which is truth and justice. And that is with the heart and the but the heart and the feather, right? Okay, so the thing is, anytime you're scared of something, or you're scared that you're doing something, or the guide might not be a good guide, or you're wondering about the guide, just say only source aligned. So when we did the last decree, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, the divine counterpart pairing decree, I said only the records, only if they are source aligned. So you can use that phrase, only source aligned, and that kind of covers everything. Yeah. And then, you know, um, and then Sunija says, I'm doubting and want to trust again. And it's like, it's okay to doubt, but you're turning these records over to your higher self and source, And then you can also say for your higher self, only source aligned. Right. So the big thing with the decree is, what are you revoking and what are you reclaiming? Your own voice. And then the burning is like, very ancient transformer, transmuter. And your voice is ancient too. Like that, our voices has been one of the main things that they've done, like overlays and blocked. Like I used to be very quiet, and now I talk a lot. But I remember sometimes being in situations and wanting to speak up, but then not able to speak up. But now my throat chakra is totally clear and I speak up, But if you're ever worried about anything, just only source aligned. Because source is only unconditional love. And so there's no conditions. And if there's no conditions, if there's no conditions, the Anunnaki's never going to be interested. If there are no conditions, the narcissists are never going to be interested, because they're only interested in conditions. They're only interested in contracts. They're only interested in inverting things and changing things and making things like anti-life, anti-source, anti-consciousness, not conscious, so you're like asleep and you're like a zombie, I had one person, she said to me, oh, you probably die first if the zombies take over. And I was like, okay, why is that? And she's like, because you wear glasses. And I said, yeah, but I see without my glasses. Like I might have prescription for 3D, but my eyes are multi-dimensional seeing, and that means my intuition and my heart is always going to guide me. And I practice every day listening to my heart and listening to my intuition, which is my higher self, only source aligned. Sinija says, speaking of rue, there are two types, fringed rue and the officinalis. And then can you use either? And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing, it's like, Sinija has so much knowledge. And all now with all the decrees, it's like all her natural expression and all her knowledge is flooding. And actually she has so much knowledge. Like I have learned so much from Sinija, and I'm so grateful for all your questions and all your comments. I'm going to send you lots of hearts. Yeah. Like Sinija has so much, not just knowledge, but wisdom. Yeah. Great. Okay. And then Sinija says, my place faces west. So if you have some other suggestions for herbs that don't need much sun. Oh, interesting. My windows face west as well, actually. And they look pretty good. I don't know. Maybe just fresh flowers, maybe even just one flower. Like we think, oh, we have to get like a huge bouquet, but really you could get like one lily, or like some wildflowers that nobody's picking. I mean, don't pick flowers out of people's gardens because that's like mean. They spent all the time like planting the flowers and then like somebody comes and just picks them. So it's like, yeah, but I mean, I don't know, be creative. And then Sunita says, I smudged my home with Palo Santo 2 days ago, and I literally heard something fall down, like a piece of wood, a stick that I have at home. Thought my place was energetically cleaned by now. 3D is a muck. Like 3D is a mess. We have to constantly clear in 3D. In 3D, we constantly have to set our intentions. Like, what is it that we want to clear? What is it that we want to protect? 3D is constant interference. And that's why we're trying to, secure our spaces, clear our spaces, clear technology. I mean, technology infiltrates constantly, to the point where I've seen people like my friends that I care about so much get so confused and so overwhelmed, that they think they're depressed and they're not. They're just flooded. They're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with all of the invasive frequency. And so we're just trying to give ourselves a break and a chance to, stabilize our field in 5D consciousness, so that we are not constantly agitated by 3D. And I actually started saying to myself, like, I want wherever I go, I just want that person to be a light worker. I want the person to be a heart-based being. Like because actually it upsets me. The NPCs really upset me. It really bothers me. And when I was in my 20s, my late 20s, when Eckhart was my teacher, and I saw people that were empty, I called them that. I didn't call them NPCs, so non-player characters then. And I said to Eckhart, I was so upset. And I said, Eckhart, they're empty. Like there's no soul. They're empty. And it was like so alarming. Like I thought it was like big news. And he's like, yes, yes, very good, very good, very good. And he's like, just let them be. And I was like, no, something has to be done. Like that can't be. And he said, but it is. It is there. It is happening. And so we just accept it and just kind of like let them be. And it was like shocking. I was like, Eckhart, like, come on. I was like 27. Like, I cannot do that, Like something needs to be done. Something needs to happen. How can that be? How can it be possible? I was so upset. And he just said, just stay in your body, stay in presence, stay in your heart, stay in the inner body, don't react. And I was like, and I got it, neutral, like be neutral. Keep going back to that 0 point presence consciousness, heart consciousness, source consciousness. And don't be so alarmed about the 3D, because as soon as you're alarmed with 3D, boom, you're low 3D, right? And that is so painful. And then you got to, work your way back up, in terms of consciousness and awareness. So, 3D is convoluted, and I remember Dolores Cannon always said, the universe and the multi-universe is convoluted. It's like Earth is convoluted. And there is constant interference in 3D, constant. And we have to clear constantly. It is a lot of work. But I wake up in the morning and I pick up my phone and I am constantly claiming absolutely every app, the internet, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G in source's name. And I do it every day. I claim the camera, I claim the microphone, and I even, put a piece of tape over the camera, but I claim everything in source's name, and I do it every day. Yeah. And I use Palo Santo every day and, sage and candles and, I mean, because I'm not like out, buying drugs and alcohol and all that, I'm not spending money on that kind of stuff. I never have, but it's like, that stuff costs a lot of money, like I don't really care about anything designer. I think it's gross, like not, yeah, maybe I think it's gross. I don't know. I'm surprised actually that I said that, but I'm not interested at all. Like I would never, if somebody bought me a crocodile Birkin bag, I would like, I'd be so disgusted. I'd be like, you don't even know me that you would even think I would want a crocodile anything. And I would like never want a $40,000 purse. Like it's a joke. Like it's ridiculous. Like, you know, take me to a Nordic spa. take me back to the Rocky Mountains. Have an experience, go to a spa with like soul family friends. That would be wow. Imagine what we could do with $40,000, instead of like a ridiculous purse that you're like carrying around, you know, like the billionaires, yeah, they can have like a million Birkin bags, but so who cares? Like it's nothing to them to buy $40,000 purses, but it's like, where's your soul? Where's your consciousness? Where's your heart? That's all I care about. Getting some 100%. But yeah, I was actually quite surprised. I was feel so strongly about a Birkin bag. But I used to be a stylist. I was a designer in film for 20 years, so I saw all of that materialism and I was never interested because I would always think as a designer, well, if I took the label off, how does the fabric feel? How is it made? How does it feel? Like all light workers care about how it feels. Like you cannot put scratchy acrylic plastic clothing and bedding on light workers. It feels disgusting. It's like it's so gross. It's like so slimy. Like we care about how things smell, how things feel, how things taste. We care about, harming, do we cause harm by having fresh flowers? Yeah. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so Helen, she, her, 1982. Could you please help me clear me? Is there anything my higher self would like me to know? I appreciate all your energy and true love. Oh, thank you, Helen. Okay, yes, let's take a look. Okay, yeah, we're getting there. Okay, so Helen, 1982. Let's look at your energy and clear. So okay, so what they're actually saying, what's available for you right now in your field is to clear your third eye. So right away I saw amethyst. So amethyst. It's a purple crystal, um, like a light purple, like a soft purple crystal. And they're saying there is an activation and a clearing for your third eye. And so how it feels for me is like it's like spiraling really quickly. So it's like they're putting your third eye through like a well, I was going to say washing machine, but they're like, that's a bit harsh. It's not really like a washing machine, but kind of like the spirals were so fast that it felt that way for me, but they're saying it's not that intense. So what they're doing is kind of, it's more like this, like more like softer spirals, and then just clearing the third eye, and then the activation of the crystal, they said will help you feel more secure, um, and confident, just seeing things as they are. But that doesn't mean like Eckhart, said, you don't react, don't, freak out, just accept things. It doesn't mean you have to hang out with the NPCs, but accept that they're there, it's different. Yeah, they're just clearing some sadness, some heartbreak, some loneliness. Like it's mostly sadness. Because it is sad. It is sad when you see things the way they are. You always felt them, but now you're seeing them as they are, but you've always felt it, but now you're seeing it. So that's like more, like the clairs, like the activation of the clairs. So clairvoyance. So just clearing. So we're just gonna clear, use the hair. Drink some coconut water. I don't know. They just want to send you lots of love. They said they're really proud of you. They just want to send you lots of love. Your team of unconditional love. And they said it is a very intense, like when the third eye is activating and clearing, it does feel very intense. It can kind of feel a bit nauseous feeling. So they're just kind of like saying right now, they're just acclimatizing, and then just acclimatizing like your alignment. And they just removed something from your throat chakra, the blue, bright blue. It was bright blue, and they just removed something that does not belong to you from your throat chakra. And it, to me, it just looked like a speck, but it would actually cause a lot of interference. And then they just removed it. Okay, so let's look at Helen's question. Oh yeah, so anything that my higher self would like to know is Helen's question. Yeah, they just want to say they are very proud of you and they love you. Okay, and take in the love. Like, don't go, oh, but take it in. Like we saw right away in the solar plexus, it was like but take in the love, receive it, and just, reclaim that love from all time, space. They're saying reclaim that love from all time, space, all dimensions. Yeah, good. Yeah. They're saying the big thing was um clearing more 3D interference, and activating the third eye with the amethyst crystal, and then also the bright blue of the throat chakra, releasing, clearing, they said, releasing and clearing throat chakra. So let's close for Helen. So actually, let me just look at the chat if there's any comments from Helen. Let's see. Okay, no, there isn't. Okay, yeah, let's close for Helen. So thank you, and we'll close for Helen. The most source aligned, healing and clearing and bringing in source's golden light. And then again, only source aligned. And then we're now closed for Helen. With much love and much thanks. Good. I always feel like I rush them a bit because I'm like, I'm like, I have to look at the chat, but they're like, it's complete. It's complete. Yeah. Let's see. Cindy just says, that's how I feel confused. So just looking at the chat. And then I sent God source divine presence ahead of me wherever I need to, like shopping, need to do like shopping, and trust me, it works. Highly recommended. Thank you, Elaine and Higher Self, for suggestion. Yeah, beautiful. Awesome, Sunija. I have crocodile boots gifted to me. Laugh out loud. Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, I guess if you already have them, like just ask if they bring you joy. If they bring you joy. Oh my God, that got me in the throat. Because they actually like are very much like the reptilians are actually very much their behavior. It If you watch crocodiles, they are like a crocodile. Like narcissists are like a crocodile. Like they'll zone in on somebody and then they'll zone in and they don't blink and then they like move in like a crocodile. It's really weird. And they're not very like they're very like focused, Like yeah, it's quite scary. It's not scary. Don't get scared. Only source aligned. Bringing in the golden light of source. Don't be scared. I'm not scared. Yeah. Because remember, it's a very low frequency, right? And heart-based frequency, they can't even touch that. And then Sunija says, she would rather have the spa over Boots any day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then can you please look into my apartment if there's a lost spirit? The building was a bad place where even pizza deliveries wouldn't deliver. Wow. Murderers. Um, murderers and I guess pedos, like etc. Anyways, the horror, the psychopath and sociopath. The dark triad. Okay, let's take a look. That's actually a good question. We have not done a house clearing. We haven't on this YouTube live, we haven't done a house clearing. So let's take a look. Actually, somebody said to me recently too, they felt like somebody had put a spell on them, and I thought that would be a really good thing to put in the chat too, because I'm sure that other people have felt that way. And yeah, Helen says thanks. Yeah, you're welcome, Helen. Blessings, lots of love. Okay, so let's look into Sinija's house or apartment. Let's take a look. So Sinija 1973. So we want to look into Sinija's house, her building. Where the dark triad has lived. They're kind of like, like if you ever feel like something agitates you, like just kind of think of the dark triad as like a piece of lint, that you can pick off easily. Because they're like, the Wizard of Oz, where the man behind the curtain and Toto the dog like went, behind the curtain, and it was this man that had all this technology, and he was like, once he got discovered that, he's the booming voice, because it was like through amplification, it was through speakers, and they were getting frightened by this voice, but it was just this man behind this curtain using technology, and the dog discovered it. They're kind of thinking, they kind of think they're wanting to say, kind of think of it that way. Kind of think of them like a piece of lint that you can just pick off. Because they want our attention. They want us to be like, oh, and then this happened, and oh, and then that happened, and oh, and then, like so much drama. They love when we freak out, you know? They love when we're afraid. And they're saying, think of them more like a piece of lint, like on a black piece of clothing, where it's, if you have like white lint on a black piece of clothing, or white clothing and then a black piece of lint is on the clothing, you can just see it and then you just pick it off. And they're saying, like, kind of think of it that way. Think of it more like your frequency. Like if you don't buy into the drama, or if you don't buy into the fear, it's like flicking off a speck. It's like picking off a piece of lint. It's like nothing, you know. And the big thing is that, frequency responds to sound. So if there's a building and the building feels like it's, you know, overwhelmed, like that's happened to me at my work studio, and I've asked, like, my friend that's a shaman to come and clear it, and he does such a good job. He's so thorough. But really, like, the bamboo thanked him. Like the studio has been there since the 60s, at like with multiple practitioners, like um counselors and massage therapists, and my office has, like, yeah, counselors, it has massage therapists, it has an an osteopath, and he comes a few times a year from France. And then we have like acupuncture. So with all the practitioners, there's so many people that come and go into the space, and they're releasing a lot, and he said the space, felt good. He cleared it, but it was more like, the bamboo was just happy to be cleared. And, but he was clearing with intention, so we called in like our guides of only source aligned. We lit a candle, We used sage. And then he went, kind of through the whole room, like corners, up and down the walls, and just with intention, you know, and then just called in the team, the guides of unconditional love. And then just holding the frequency, but every time I do any energy clearing, the counselors at the studio are always, they thank me, and I always bring in some flowers, not even a lot. Like I'll bring in like a couple carnations, or I'll bring in like one lily stem, but everybody feels the shift and feels the frequency. And then the person that runs the studio, she always has beautiful flowers and plants like outside, like at the entranceway. So, all of those small things, they add up. But what it all comes down to is intention, and also not buying into the fear, because they want us to be like, well, this space is taken over. It's like source always wins. Source is always 17 steps ahead. It's a lot of light that comes in, and that's what they don't want. They don't want source consciousness light coming in. They want to remain in the dark, hidden, you know, and you frightened, like, oh, the man in the Wizard of Oz, like the man behind the curtain was scaring the scarecrow, scaring the Tin Man, scaring the lion, scaring Dorothy, and everybody's like terrified. And that's what they want. And it's like, don't give them that. Just be like, no, it's my space. You have to go. It's my space. I claim this space in Source's name. Like my space is sealed in Source's name every day. I seal the YouTube in Source's name. I seal, like their construction workers are around, because they have their jobs to do. But as soon as I've done the YouTube live, they've stopped. I didn't ask them. They just did it on their own. You know, they're it's like frequency frequency speaks louder than words. And but it's a frequency of unconditional love. It's a frequency from source. It's a frequency of alignment. So they're just saying, like, don't buy into the drama, don't buy into, you know, like I was like, oh, it's like the deluge. There's so much to clear here that's never been cleared. And he's like, no, it's beautiful. It's a healing space. It just needs like to be dusted and kind of loved and um and just loved, really. Like he's just like, it just needed more love. And he said, like the bamboo thanked him, because he saged the outside stairs, and all there's bamboo going all the way up the stairs. And he saged, from the bottom of the stairs all the way up and then inside. But, you know, I always get text messages that say thank you from the other practitioners, because they feel it. But it's um, but we're claiming it in Source's name, so just because I know, Sunija, you've named your space, so just keep claiming that your space with the name of your space is sealed in Source's name. And then let the frequency of Source, um, be the dominant frequency. And then you're actually helping a lot of people. Yeah, I'm just gonna change the island a bit. Okay, let's take a look. We're going to wrap up soon. I feel it. I feel it. Um, okay, so and Sunija, so Sunija 1973. So let's just close that. Let's send, source to Sunija's building. Send source's golden light to Sunija's building, and then just close that, and then close it in source's name. So close the question and also the energy and the frequency of the building, and then let's close it in source's name. Good. Okay. So yeah, good job. Um, Okay, so let's do, this will be the last question. And then Sunija says, can you please see if my spine needs healing or is holding? And then I'm doubting, like shaking the dust off my shoulder. And then Sunija says, yes, she claims and seals the space and source's name. That's great. So then you're doing a lot. You're doing a ton. Okay, so let's see Sunija's spine healing. Let's see what's happening with Sunija's spine and what she's holding, and then the shoulders. Oh, like shake. Oh, I get what you're saying, Sunija. It's like shaking the dust off your shoulder. Exactly. Like you're like, yeah, it's like irritating. It's like nothing. It's just like, just exactly, just whip it off, dust it off. Let's take a look at what Sunija 1973, she, her. Let's take a look. She's asking to take a look at her spine. So what, if it needs any healing, and then what she's holding. Okay, so let's take a look. Yeah, so they're just doing alignment right away. They're just releasing a cord. It's interesting, like as soon as they're releasing a cord, there's like drilling outside. So they're just releasing a cord. It's from another timeline. It's not from this timeline. So they're just releasing a cord. Yeah, and the big thing they're saying, it's, my dignity, my body. It's like claiming it's my dignity, it's my body. But it's like a cord that was like at the very top of the spine. But it wasn't from this timeline. So it's not from here. It's not from this present timeline. And then they're also suggesting, they're saying, like Sunija can start seeing, like saying, source, mirroring source, like source as self, like mirroring source. And they're saying like that, well, right now they're actually bringing in a lot of wind and then just clearing that timeline with a lot of wind. Yeah, the elements are coming in. And there's a crow that just flew over, so the clearing was received, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, so we're asking for it to be complete, and we're asking for complete freedom. So complete alignment from that timeline, and then complete freedom, which means a complete release, and then the crow flying over would be like the earth confirmation. And they're just checking, they're just stretching now. They're saying it was an interference cord. So, and they just want you to affirm, like, I reclaim my innocence, I reclaim my power, only source aligned. Yeah, good. Good, 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 good. And then just stretch. Stretch, 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 and open, 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 open. Good. And then Sunija says, I claim and seal the space and source's name. Oh yeah, okay, so we already got that. So yeah, that's good. So that was from her other question. Yeah, and for Sunija, like the biggest affirmation is like, the dark triad or whoever they are, but the low vibration, they have no claim on her at all. Zero. Zero claim on me. Zero. Zero access, zero claim. Zero, zero, zero. And then stay in 0 point neutrality, right? That's very powerful, actually, to stay at 0 point. And I actually hear it in lots of people's sessions where, the higher selves are always like, you can almost just laugh at them, because they hate being laughed at, but also their games, even though they seem all like, horrific, but they're just repeating the same kind of horror show with no creativity. So, all right. I think that'll be good. I'm going to send lots of love. Helen says, thank you. So let's close for Sinija. Let's close the spine. They said, yep, it's good. Let's close for that. So we send only Source's golden light to Sinija, and then we seal the space in Source's name. And then this energy release, it was a release and a clearing and a healing energy work only in the present. And then they said yes. So the crow sent the message. So the healing is complete. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that feels very good. So yeah, Sunija, let's take a look. Sunija says, thank you so much, Elaine, with like lots of O's and lots of exclamation marks. And you see, we all communicate the same because I would exactly have written it that way with lots of O's and lots of exclamation marks. So we're mirroring each other because that's exactly how I would write it. Thank you, Sunija. And thank you, Helen, for coming on the chat, asking questions and giving feedback. And yeah, I appreciate you so much, and nice community that we're building together. And, just stay only source aligned. Simple, right? It's like so hard to get to the simplicity, and then you land in the simplicity, and it's like, wow, all of those decades, and it's really only source aligned is like the magic phrase. So, all right. All right, so let's close the space now. So close the space and only source's name, and then bring in the golden light from source, source mirroring source, the divine mirroring the divine, connecting through our hearts into the inner body. Good. All right. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you in the next one. I'll be here on Thursday morning, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. So we'll see you then. Okay, thank you so much for being here. All right, take care. Bye. And always use your own discernment, right? This is the most important thing. It was like blasting I heard the voice so clearly. Always use your own discernment. We're learning to trust ourselves and listen to our own higher selves, our own intuition, and our own intuition is the most important. Our hearts, our own hearts, and our expression of our own hearts is more important.